Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Daniel Midson-Short with another episode of Self Improvement Saturday, episode number 12. Episode number 12. We're rolling along, my friends. Today is October 14th, 2023. And hello to those of you on Instagram. I just dropped the camera. Hello to those of you on YouTube. Good to see you, my friends. It's great to be here. It's a lovely Saturday morning, nice and fresh. I slept very well last night and I'm feeling alive. So it's good to be back with you all. And I'm trying to adjust this so I can look here and I can look here at the same time. It's very tricky to do both, let me tell you. But anyway, we're making it work, my friends. You might have noticed today, if you were waiting, that I was 5 minutes late. Oh, I was 5 minutes late to start my own show. What a horrible sin of productivity, because that's what we're going to talk about today, is this tendency to be obsessive about being productive, something that I think all of us fall into if we are achievers or goal setters or people who want to improve ourselves. We often think that we need to be more and more productive. And so that's what we're going to get into for today. If I can stop, I keep dropping the camera on my YouTube, my Instagram feed here. Apologies to anyone watching this. So, okay, I think we're good. We are good. All right. So, yes, episode 12 of Self Improvement Saturday. We are here and we are going to talk about pathological productivity, which is a very interesting topic, something I have been deep diving into the last couple of weeks. As always, I have my notes. I am ready to talk about this topic, and I want to credit a couple of books, which I'll show you in a minute. So let's talk about the topic of being pathologically productive and why we obsess about trying to do more, be more, and have more in our lives. Why are we like this? Why do we think that we need to be seen as someone who's doing things in their life, is being a certain type of person, or even achieving or having certain things in our lives? Where does this desire and this urge come from? It's a very interesting topic to think about. And again, I want to credit to, first of all, last week I talked about the book 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, a brilliant book around the philosophy and the practical application of time in your life. It's something that I think a lot of us don't think about, is how time and the idea of time affects us and how we live our lives. Oliver Burkeman is an excellent writer. He also wrote the book The Antidote, which I mentioned last week as well. Great book. But this one in particular has changed a lot of my mindsets and the way I think and feel about time. So we're going to talk about this. And he actually, in the book, he came up with the idea of pathological productivity. So that's where I want to give credit to that. The other book that I love, which kind of leads to this topic a little bit, is The Road Less Traveled by Scott Peck. This is a classic book from the self-help psychology genre. It was written, I believe, in the, let me just check, in the 80s or the 70s. It was written in 1978. So this is a classic, and it's one that I really recommend. If you haven't read it, it's a great book and has some incredible ideas for just living a better life. So with those two books in mind, I want to talk about this idea and how pathological productivity can take over our lives. So here's the thing you might have noticed. About, 15, 20 years ago, when I started turning into an adult, say I was about the age of 25, something like that, I would go out with my friends for a drink sometimes on the weekend, and I would say, "Oh, how are you?" And instead of them saying to me, "I'm good," or, life's going well, or it's fun, or whatever, they would say a strange word. They would say, "I'm so busy. Man, I'm slammed. I'm just crazy busy all the time. Oh, life's hectic." They would say this strange phrase, and I noticed more and more and more of them started saying it. It became like a bit of a cliche or a mind virus that kind of took over our lives as we became more professional and grew into adults. We all suddenly started bragging about and also complaining about being busy all the time. And I thought, why the hell is this happening to us? Why are we all suddenly busy all the time when, 10 years before that, we're all little kids and just enjoying our lives and not thinking about time at all? So This concept of being busy, at some stage in our life, it creeps into our lives. It starts to take over in some way where we aren't really aware of the fact that we are living our lives to be productive, to achieve things, to kind of tick things off lists instead of actually living life to enjoy ourselves. I found that happen to myself probably in my mid to late 20s. Maybe for you, it started earlier, maybe for you, it started later, but there's probably been a time where you felt like I need to be more productive, or I need to, everyone around me is busy. I need to be busy as well. Why? Because everyone else is doing it. Because that's what you do if you're a good person. You are productive. You are, creating things in your life. You're producing. And so this is something that I think we need to be aware of, and we need to think about: do we actually need to be as busy as we are? Do we need to live this way in our lives? Do we need to fall into this trap of pathological productivity? In the book 4,000 Weeks, which I again recommend reading, he talks about this concept that hundreds of years ago, in the agrarian age, when everyone was a farmer or a peasant or a field worker before there were factories, we didn't really have a concept of time. We just lived our lives by the sun and the night. Whenever the sun came up, we got up and we started doing some work on our farm. When the sun started to go down, we relaxed and we minimized the amount of work. And in fact, in those times, being wealthy and being rich meant that you actually worked less. You were part of the leisure class. You were a person who could relax. You could afford not to work to survive. What happened over the last probably 150 years with the Industrial Revolution, when people went to work in factories and things like that, is that all flipped. Suddenly we had clocks, and we had dollars per hour that we worked for. And so our whole mindset shifted around time and productivity and what made us a worthwhile human. Suddenly, to work hard and to be a productive person became important, because that's how you provided for your family. And generally that was done by following some sort of schedule or creating a list of things and ticking them off. That's how you were a worthy, worthwhile person. Before that, it was more about being a member of your community and contributing to your family and just having enough to survive and enjoy your life. So this shift that happens slowly in our society, it started to change the way we think about time and about work. Last week, I did a deep dive into the idea of work and how it affects us. So go watch that episode if you haven't. It'll talk about it in detail. But very slowly, what happened was we started to think about work as the primary reason why we live when we're adults. And you might notice this with a lot of people they end up just spending their time, their leisure time, say on the weekends, if you meet up with them, they just talk about work, 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 work. That's their life, because that's what they're meant to do as an adult. They're meant to work, they're meant to be productive, they're meant to create more and produce more and achieve more. And therefore, that becomes the whole focus of their life. This is a fairly new concept. It wasn't around 200, 300 years ago. We just woke up when the sun came up, we did some work to create some food, we enjoyed our time with our family and our communities. And then we just spent the rest of the time relaxing. Especially after the harvest, we wouldn't really work at all. We would just relax for several months until it was time to start farming again and provide for our families. Today, if you did that, if you only worked half of the year or 3/4 of the year or something, you would be condemned. You'd be like, look at this lazy person. They're taking too much time off. The only excusable version of this is what they call the gap year. And you see a lot of people do this after they finish school. They start to travel, they relax, they explore the world. They're allowed to do it for 1 year of their life. They're allowed to be a bit of a bum and relax and not really do anything productive while they discover themselves after they've been through college or school or whatever. This gap year is an acceptable thing. Otherwise, we got to get to work. We got to be productive. And so I wanted to share that because I think this has crept into our culture over the last 100, 150 years. And for anyone living today, we were just born into it. It's the way it is. Even worse, with the creation of technology and remote work and knowledge work, it's even got more and more sinister, because now if you don't have the appearance of being productive or achieving, then your self-esteem starts to lower. You feel like, I'm not doing something worthwhile. And work becomes almost the meaning in your life instead of being a means to live a worthwhile life. So that's an important thing. The work becomes the meaning, the productivity becomes the meaning, instead of it actually giving you the means to live and have a worthwhile life. Very important distinction. One of the great quotes in the book 4,000 Weeks is this term, joyless urgency. And Oliver Berkman credits the writer who said it, but I think that encapsulates everything we're trying to say about pathological productivity. The idea that we're rushing around, we're trying to be more productive and creative and constructive and efficient and all those things, but we're actually doing it in a joyless way. If you watch much YouTube, you've probably noticed the rise of a lot of productivity YouTubers. I won't call out any by name. There's a lot of them these days, people who talk about how I get more done in a week and how I have a great morning routine and how I get through the day without getting distracted and all these things. The thing is, if you look at those people, very rarely do they actually talk about whether they're happy or not, whether they're fulfilled. They're just talking about getting more done. And so I would ask you to question for yourself, if you're following people like this, are they actually people you want to be like? Are they truly people who seem happy, who seem fulfilled in their lives, or are they just ticking off lists because that's what they've learned to do to be important and to feel like they're a contributing member of the world? Very important distinction to think about. Excuse me, friends. So, yes, this idea of joyless urgency is one that I would recommend thinking about to see if it's crept into your life, especially with this idea of being overly productive all the time. So, nowadays, when we get into this trap of productivity, I think we're doing it because we think it's going to make us feel more important or like we're contributing to the world or that we have purpose and meaning, when in reality, it's actually the result of what we're trying to be productive about that should bring the purpose and the meaning. But we fall into this trap of thinking, if I am just productive, then I have meaning, I have purpose. And so it's a really important thing to think about is, are you just being productive for productivity's sake, or are you doing it as a means to an end? Really important key distinction here. So with this in mind, I have three different things that I have learned and I've sort of adapted from the book 4,000 Weeks and also from The Road Less Traveled. I want to credit that book because it changed my mind a long time ago as well. Three things that I have learned that have reduced my urge to be as pathologically productive, to obsess about being a productive person or trying to tick things off my list or trying to be working and busy all the time like I was doing when I was younger and all my friends were doing. So let's talk about them. The first one is to change from being productive to being active. And this is an important distinction. Go from being productive to being active. If you think about your life, wherever you are trying to be productive, you end up becoming a little bit miserable. I'll give you an example of this. A couple of months ago, I was really trying to get in better physical shape. I'm 45 years old now, and I was like, you know what? I'm getting a bit fat. I need to get in better shape here. And so, what did I do? Of course, I started to set goals. I figured out the weight that I wanted to weigh. I figured out how many minutes of exercise I should do a day on my Apple Watch. I figured out how many days I should go to the gym, what exercises I could do, what body parts I should work on. And I started to note it all down. And for about a week and a half, I was reasonably productive. I stuck to it. I worked hard. I was very sore afterwards. And I felt like, yeah, I'm ticking these things off the list. I'm doing it. But after about a week and a half, I got kind of miserable. I thought, this sucks. I hate doing this every day. I'm just kind of trying to achieve this productivity goal instead of enjoying the process of getting healthier. Now, my fiance Lauren is someone who loves to exercise and it's part of who she is. And so I talked to her about it and I said, how do you stay motivated with your exercise? She runs, she swims, she's very consistent with it every day. And she said, I just try to be active. I just try to be active and out there doing something every single day. And she does it for the enjoyment of it. She loves running. She enjoys swimming. She likes going for walks. She likes going to Pilates classes. She does it because she enjoys being active. And this is a really important distinction. I was trying to be productive with my fitness. I was setting all these targets and goals and arbitrary systems in place, and it was making me miserable. Whereas she was just being active and enjoying her time doing it. And she was the one who actually had more success with it. Not only that, but she enjoyed the journey more and she actually was rewarded by it. This is an important distinction to think about. If you get stuck into the act of productivity and you're trying to just achieve things for the sake of it, you're going to make yourself miserable. Instead, try being active in your life, whatever it is you're doing. If you're reading a book, rather than trying to just get through the book, just realize that you're enjoying reading. If you're traveling somewhere, rather than just thinking about getting to the destination, enjoy the process of being on the trip, everything that goes with it. Be active and in the moment. So this is something that has really helped me, is go from being productive to being active in my life, and it's changed the way I feel about a lot of the experiences that I have. The second idea that I have for you to reduce pathological productivity is to procrastinate on purpose. And this one might sound a bit weird because nobody wants to be a procrastinator in their life. It's an awful, terrible thing. It means you're lazy and you have no self-control. But the reality is, and I learned this from Oliver Burkeman in 4,000 Weeks, there is not enough time in our lives for us to do everything we want to do. There just isn't. That's the reality. We're always going to have more things than we have hours in the day, and we have to make trade-offs. So what he suggests is procrastinating on the things that don't really matter to you. Now, some of them are things you think that you should do, that you have to get done, but actually, in reality, you don't. For instance, if you don't get a chance to tidy your house because you're going to go out and spend the day with friends, that's okay. You're procrastinating on tidying up so that you can enjoy your life with your friends. If you have a big project that you're working on and you're really enjoying getting involved in it, maybe that means that takes away from your family time a little bit for a week or two. That's okay. You can procrastinate on purpose, even though something is important to you. You can put it aside while you work on something else. And what this does is it reduces the sort of this spreading yourself too thin mindset. And it also makes you enjoy what you're doing much more. You're much more active in the process of doing what you're doing, and you're letting the other things go. So whatever it is that you want to do in your life, be very clear about it. And the other things that could be done at the same time, just procrastinate on purpose for that period. Doesn't mean you can't ever do them, but right at this moment, when you're choosing to do one thing, it means all the other things have to be put aside and they can be done later. Procrastinate on purpose. And number 3 is this idea of relearning to relax. This might sound very strange to some of you out there, but I'm sure for some of you, it is a real problem that you've had in your life, is that you cannot relax. You cannot enjoy yourself in what you're doing in your life because you're always thinking about the next thing you have to do, to the next task you have to get to. A good example of this is if you as a person on the weekends find that you think you have to be productive or you have to be creating something or improving yourself in some way for the week ahead, that probably means that you can't relax. You can't just do things for leisure reasons and to enjoy your life. So if you as a person get stuck in this idea of you have to be always building, always improving, which ironically, I know this is Self-Improvement Saturday, this show, but if you get stuck in this habit of you always have to do it and you can't relax, then you need to relearn to relax. For me personally, this has been a big struggle, especially as I've got a bit older, is just saying, hey, you know what? I need to relax more. I need to have a few drinks. I need to play some video games. I need to watch a movie. I need to just hang out with friends. I need to go for a walk. I need to read a book just for fun, a fiction book, whatever. All these things really contribute to the richness of life, the relaxing, the leisure time in your life, because it helps you to feel alive. It's not so that you can have more energy to work more. It's just so that you can enjoy your life more. So that's my last point, is to relearn to relax and to take the time to do it. Case in point, last night I stayed up till 1 a.m. playing a video game. It was a game I'd wanted to play for months and months, but I kept putting it off because I was working and I was reading and I was trying to improve myself. And I thought this week, you know what? I've really been wanting to play this game and I'm going to enjoy it. And I went through to 1 a.m. playing the game and I had a great time. And that might sound juvenile, that might sound irresponsible, it might sound like I'm not being a grown-up, but who cares? I was relearning to relax and I had a great time and I have no regrets. So there you go. That's number 3. So these 3 points, these ideas of number 1, going from being productive to being active. Number 2, procrastinating on purpose. And number 3, relearning to relax. I think they have really helped me and they've shaped the way I'm thinking about being productive in my life. Is there value in being a productive person and getting a lot done? At times, yes, there is. There are projects that you need to get completed and you need to work very hard on. But at the same time, there are times where you need to let go of that and you need to say, you know what, it's okay if I don't achieve anything important here. There's a very profound idea towards the end of 4,000 weeks that I'm actually going to read to you because it really struck me when I read it the other night. I thought, wow, this is something I've never thought about. It's in the last section where he he says he has 5 questions for you, and the last question is, how would you spend your day differently if you didn't care so much about seeing your actions reach fruition? How would you spend your day differently if you didn't care so much about seeing your actions reach fruition? This is really important to think about. This is something that really struck me is if something you're doing has no result, it has no means to the end, it's just for the sake of doing it, would you still do it? In the world we live in today, there is this tendency to think we need to do things because we need to. They're result oriented. They're a means to an end. But if something you do has no means, no end to it, it's just something you're doing for the sake of it. Would you still do it in your life? And if you wouldn't, then maybe you should stop doing it. Maybe you should think about things that you would do without having a result around them. That is where the true joy of life is held. Like me playing a video game, me playing guitar, me enjoying time with my friends and family, whatever it is. Those are the things that have no end to them, no result that I'm seeking, but they really give me the true value of life. And you probably have those things for yourself. So, my friends, I hope that little deep dive into pathological productivity and how it can damage your life is interesting for you. I encourage you to think about it and put into the chat here if you have a chance. How have you overcome this in your life? Is it something you've struggled with, this obsession and this need to be productive all the time? And how are you learning to overcome it in your life? I'd be very curious to know. All right. Well, thank you for being here today. This has been a very short episode. I don't know if I'll be back next week because I'm traveling next week to run an event for my company. But if I'm not back next week, I will definitely be back the week after. And yeah, I'm excited to keep continuing this journey. Again, if I can really credit these 2 books, 4,000 Weeks and The Road Less Traveled, well worth reading if you get a chance. Both very profound in their own way. One's quite modern and one is very, what I want to say, a classic. So check them out if you get a chance. Great books. And really think about this idea in your life and see if it's something that you can change or adapt to really enjoying your life more, because I think it will give you a richer experience. And even though I started 5 minutes late, I have no regrets, my friend, because I wasn't trying to be productive. I was just trying to experience this moment with you. That's what's been most important. So thank you to those of you who have been here on Instagram with me. I appreciate you. Thank you to those of you on YouTube. It's great to see you people who are there in the chat. It's wonderful. I will be back in a couple of weeks. My name is Daniel Midson-Short. Thanks as always for watching. Thank you for being here. And as I always say, thank you for improving yourself.